Good evening. Today is April 25th, and welcome to the Township Committee meeting of the Township of Chatham. Now I call this meeting to order. Greg, the adequate notice was given?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given to both the Chatham Courier and the Morris County Daily Record on January 4th, 2019. Notice was posted on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building on January 4th, 2019, and notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 4th, 2019.
Thank you, Greg. And now we have in the audience a freshman from Delbarton High School, Will Ritter, will lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Will, would you please come to the microphone and lead us with the pledge? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Will. Thank you, everybody. Greg, roll call, please.
Mrs. Ness, Mrs. Schwartz,
Here.
Mr. Ritter, Deputy Mayor Kelly,
Here.
Mayor Selin.
Here. Thank you, Greg. And the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Anyone second it?
Second.
Second. Any discussions? No? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the agenda is approved as is. Now, we have a proclamation on the agenda, and I will read it for you. And that is about the National Donate Life Month. Whereas, realizing the urgent need for organ and tissue donors across the country, the National Donate Life Month observance promotes a greater understanding about life-saving benefits of donation and transplantation. Moreover, the need is increasing. New Jersey Sharing Network is committed to addressing that need through increased awareness, and whereas the transplantation of organs and tissue is a miracle of modern medicine made possible through the compassion of organ and tissue donors, enabling surgeons to save thousands of lives every year. One organ donor can save 8 lives, and one tissue donor can restore health to over 75 others. People of all ages, ethnic backgrounds, and religions are touched by donation and by the serious shortage of organ donors that exists. Currently, there are nearly 4,000 New Jersey residents and 115,000 Americans awaiting life-saving transplant operations. And whereas every capable person should support this vital effort by registering as an organ and tissue donor, making their family aware of their wishes, and being willing to give the precious gift of health, sight, and life to people in need. And whereas registering as an organ and tissue donor at a local motor vehicle agency or online at www.njsharingnetwork.org. Again, it's www.njsharingnetwork.org signifies our fundamental human responsibility to help others. And whereas, as mayor of the Township of Chatham, I recognize National Donate Life Month as an opportunity to join New Jersey Sharing Network in its life-saving mission. Now, therefore, I, Typhoon Selen, the mayor, do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Donate Life Month in the Township of Chatham, New Jersey, and I urge all residents to join me in promoting organ and tissue donor education throughout National Donate Life Month. Thank you. And is there anyone from the National Donor Organization would like to receive this proclamation? I think, Will, you can come over and I can present you with this proclamation. I don't know. I think we should. Do we want to do a photo opportunity? I mean, I don't know. We used to do it. And so, get this and along with this picture. You want to take a picture with the committee members? Or? Sure. Okay. Why not? Why not? Exactly. If you want to come, Jennifer, would you like to come join the picture?
You would have liked to have known,
Okay.
and I might
That's
have
fine.
put his name wrong. Not in the current state. Thank you. It's me, it's not you.
So, what do I do? I mean, do we have a copy of this, or we should just give it to
Will
him?
keeps that.
Okay, you keep it. Okay,
And
good
he
job.
shares it with
Okay,
us
thank you,
for
thank you.
supporting his endeavor. Also.
Thank you.
Way to go.
Thank you so much.
I know every time I read a proclamation, it's a torture for the audience, so, you know. And before we proceed, Bob, would you like to chime in on the organ donation?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think this was a very laudable effort by Master Ritter to make sure that our township knows about National Organ Donation Month in the month of April. And one of the things that's very important is the mayor read in the proclamation that it's easy to become a donor. So when you go to the motor vehicle agency, you can just get your license renewed. You can argue with them if you don't like your picture, but you should really make sure that you have that little organ donor on your card, because it's very, very important. It saves lives. It helps a lot of other people. It helps people that you don't even know are walking around among you, but it helps families. And one of the things that touches all families is that with modern medicine, we are able to use pieces, not just the whole organ, but we can use pieces to help many more people. So just in our family, I have a cousin who lives in Vermont who is going, on May 2nd, he is going to see if he will be eligible to be on a list for a kidney and a pancreas. So, that's kind of new to our family, but we're hoping for the best. But everybody that can become an organ donor, please consider doing that. So that's what I just wanted to let people know, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Bob, appreciate it. And now we can move on to the reports. Karen, do you have any reports?
I do have a couple of reports. This is the event you've been waiting for. The Senior Center Shred event is going to be on Saturday, 9 to noon, Lafayette Avenue School parking lot. $5 per grocery bag, $10 per box. Once again, you've cleaned out 7 years ago's taxes and beyond, and every credit card application that comes in the mail. These are all things you don't want to throw out in the garbage, I'm sure. I've been collecting mine for weeks and weeks. So please do come out with your shredding. It's a great household utility, and also it supports just so many wonderful programs that our senior center runs. So that's 9 to noon on Saturday. Well, our Chatham Township Volunteer Fire Department and our Green Village Fire Department this week were invited by School District of the Chathams business manager Pete DeQuila to come out and see whether they could conduct any drills on the soon-to-be demolished Special Services building on the campus of the high school. The township firefighters were delighted to be able to come and use the building for some drills. Bob Hoffman, you attended. I know that the fire company was very happy to see you there, to know that you're getting into Chatham Township with both feet. Green Village Fire Department will also hopefully be making themselves, making the building available to themselves for some special training. On that note, it's just kind of the embodiment to me about how our departments and agencies in this township and in the entire community work so well together. I have had the privilege of being a member of our local Kiwanis for many years here. We had our annual benevolence event earlier this week, and among the recipients of the donations that the Kiwanis gave out were the Green Village Fire Department, our senior center, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, our Chatham Emergency Squad, whose very motto is neighbors helping neighbors. And that's what I saw all around that room. Everybody bragged about how they all work together and how the Girl Scouts have helped out the senior center and the Boy Scouts were working on a project over in this area. And it really makes you very proud to know that you're in a community where the agencies and departments work so well together for the benefit of the community. On a final note, and a kind of a personal note, I'd like to congratulate Chatham Borough Police Department Sergeant Mike Mahoney on his retirement after 25 years. Mike Mahoney is a personal friend. He's been a great asset to our community. He is a cop's cop, but he's also a resident's cop. And I've known Mike since he was a young man growing up on Yarmouth Road where we live. There is going to be a clap-out ceremony at the police department headquarters on May 1st. I'm not going to miss it. Bidding farewell on behalf of Chatham Township to Sergeant Mike Mahoney of the Chatham Borough Police Department. Mike's been a great servant to the community, and we will miss him.
Deputy Mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Karen began her reports with the shred, urging people to bring their documents out. I'm going to begin mine with a kind of a parallel request. This Saturday is National Take Back Night, which is urging people to get rid of the outdated and unneeded prescription drugs in their medicine cabinets. So the police will be present with a disposal box at the Hickory Tree Square CVS from 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock this Saturday, for people who want to stop by and drop off those prescriptions. And also just a reminder that the disposal box is at the police headquarters during business hours all week long. So if Saturday is not convenient for you, you can stop by police headquarters and take care of that and get some of those outdated medicines in a safe place. Also, separately from the communications department, kind of on a sad note, where we've been notified that Tom Salvis, our longtime presence in our booth, will be retiring next month, and we'll be sorry to see him go, and we're happy with all the great work that he has given us over the long time. But I just wanted to get the word out to the community to let you know, and also to put the word out there that we will be looking for a new person to record and then handle the broadcast of these meetings. So if you have an interest in an event in that direction, please contact us at Town Hall, and we'd be happy to talk to you. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. John?
A couple items that just looking for some guidance from the committee on. By all means, if you feel that these are something that we should postpone as a discussion item for another meeting, but please just indicate. But we have been an issue regarding curbing on Lenape Trail. If you recall, last year we've well, just as some background, the road does need to be resurfaced, and it is scheduled to. We have funding actually in place to resurface the road, but we have received a lot of complaints from the residents regarding the amount of ponding that occurs on the edge of the road. And we looked at the road, we surveyed the road, and it's not a matter of just installing more catch basins. The problem is that road is extremely flat. You just have low areas, and what occurs is the road is relatively narrow, and when people park their car on the side of the road, they just create ruts, they compact the soils, and so we're just getting a lot of areas that just have standing water on the side of the road. So the best alternative is really to regrade the road so that the road eliminate those low spots and just get the road, get the water to the catch basins that are located on the road. And so we did propose a curbing project. The curbing, if we could survey the curbing, because the road is basically at almost a 0.5%, or in some areas less, it's just a very extreme flat slope to be able to pave the road to accomplish that. You're just never going to eliminate those burr bats that occur in those areas. So curbing is really the best bet, and curbing would also accommodate a slight road widening and also just control the cars not going off the roadway. Tom thought we would be able to squeeze that in a prior budget, and we went out to bid, and the bids just didn't come in as competitively as we hoped. And not that they were extremely high, but nevertheless, we were really hoping for a really close price. So basically, the project did not go forward because of there was this lack of funding. The project is unique because we've never done a curb project in town. A good example is when Crestwood would be the best example, where if the residents are looking for curbing, we offered them an opportunity to install the curbing prior to our paving, and then I think there we gave the residents 90 days or plus days. If you want to put curbing, install curbing, we're going to curb the road. And that did occur. We did have several residents prior to paving the road. They installed curbing, and then we just finish the road with the paving. That's one option that we can consider on Lenape, is to offer that to the residents to install the curb themselves, as we did on Crestwood. We did discuss the possibility of doing a special assessment where the cost of the project is in fact incurred by or funded by the residents themselves that are receiving that benefit. But there were some concerns. The price that we bid the project, it came in about approximately $160,000. So for a basic 50-foot lot, that's a $4,000 assessment. So it's a significant cost to do that. So we do need to make a decision on how we're going to proceed. Either offer the curbing to, is it going to be municipal funded? Is it going to be offered to the curbing, offer it through a special assessment, or just allow the residents to install the curb themselves? Or we just, don't do any curbing and just repave the road. We can do our best to try to eliminate those low spots in the road and try and do it, but there's no guarantee. And in fact, I can just say that we're not going to get it perfect. It's just, it'll be, say it'd be better, but it's not going to be perfect. So we can certainly just proceed, with the resurfacing. But we do need to have a discussion and how to proceed on that, because, like I said, the funding isn't in place, and we do need to proceed with that project.
Okay, that's good. So we can get that ball rolling and communicate with the residents. I know they're anxious to get their road paved. And as far as curbing, and we'll have that discussion sooner than later.
Okay, so we can have another discussion tonight if we don't want to discuss it tonight.
can-
But we do need to make a decision and get back to the residents, because it's been about a year.
Okay.
And we do
Yeah.
need to-
John, I'm a little curious to know, when residents do it themselves, they do it within the guidelines of the cartway, and they all will measure it out uniformly? If they choose to do that, and what if the neighbor next door to them doesn't want to do that? These are all the things that a neighborhood kind of has to get together and decide, right?
Yeah, the regarding control, for Crestwood, I provide the control. I made sure that the curbing goes at the right elevation, at the right location, and so that it's not haphazard. And so it does go into control. So we do provide that to the residents, so that as residents, even if they don't want to complete it this year, they can then follow up another year, and just we have that alignment and do that. So that's, we do have the controls. And even on Crestwood, there wasn't all the, there was a good number, maybe 50% of the residents did come forward and did the curbing, but the other 50% didn't. So there was a piecemeal of broken curbing in that area.
Right.
But we paved it, and I don't recall if people did follow up afterwards with that, but it did occur on Crestwood.
To assign a $4,000 per house neighborhood assessment seems a pretty hefty burden. But obviously, you're talking about Belgian block. You're not
Belgian
talking
block,
about,
yeah, no,
you're not talking about a macadam curb, a berm on the
No, we're
side of
not
the road.
talking a berm. We do have, we do mechanic berms, but we cannot do that on this road without proper controls. The road is just too flat. We can't just open the side shoe on the side of the paver and just put a berm in, because it's not, you're going to create those bird bats. And if we don't have, and then that you may have icing issues, we'll get complaints of standing water.
Right.
Right now, the water is sheeting off of the road and going into the grass areas, and sometimes it ponds because the road cars are going off, they're compacting the soils, and it's just not, recharging. So, installing asphalt curbs, I would not recommend it, because I think we're going to get more complaints afterwards if we do that.
Right.
If I may,
Sure.
I think that if there's going to be curbing, the choice would be either concrete curb or the Belgian block, but not asphalt, because you're just, that would just be a waste of.
Right, the plows just tear it up anyway.
Yeah.
I think
And
that-
we would, well, there's too many audible pauses in there.
Yeah.
What is going to be required is a policy decision of the Township Committee before we introduce our capital
Right.
ordinance, so that we will know what's the direction, what to do.
Okay.
Because there are funds encumbered to pave the road, but it's just, there's
Just
as
resurfacing.
John had talked about with the curbing, but there's also a drainage issue that, there's a couple of options that we need to look at to make sure we can take care of that drainage.
Right,
Yeah,
well, the
well, that's-
reason for not having done it when we were originally talking about doing it last year was because we wanted to try and improve upon the drainage. And here we are a year later, we haven't improved upon anything except for people's mud in their front yard. We're only talking really about a problematic area of, say, houses 1 through 14 or 1 through 20,
It's about
right?
1,000 feet.
But it's the upper level
it
that's
is the upper
parallel to
level,
Pine Street,
yeah.
not that heads north towards Shunpike.
Correct.
So that
correct.
part doesn't need really any
Well,
masterminding.
this is unique where we don't usually install curbing for drainage purposes. And that's what's unique about this road, because the curbing is being installed, and the curbing can be installed at a very uniform, flat slope, so that when they pave, they can match the height of the curb, and so that's how you're creating
right.
the uniform slope over such a slight grade. So that's why, to install additional catch basins, you're going to install a catch basin, but you still need to get the water to the catch basins.
Yeah.
Additional catch basins is not going to work in this location. We do have other, in that general area, we do have other, that the curbing was really just for Lenape because of the slope of the road. When you go around Lenape, the road is much steeper. There really is no issue there. But we do have an issue at the end of Plymouth. And at the end of Plymouth, there's a catch basin that's significantly undersized. We have a drainage easement that discharges onto Lenape, and actually it's just an open pipe at the end of the curb that discharges onto the road, so it's not even collecting into our system. So we did look at doing some drainage at the, essentially installing a proper basing at the end of Yarmouth and putting drainage pipe down the easement onto Lenape and connecting into a basin of near Shunpike. So that was another project that was also looked at as part of a long-term complaints at Plymouth regarding that drainage issue. And unfortunately, everything costs money, and it was about $105,000 to do that drainage project. So that one, if we do, it's if we're going to pave Lenape, it'd be a shame to pave Lenape and then not do this project at that time. So that's just another drainage issue in that neighborhood if we're addressing, and we have, when we typically do, we've been, we have been looking at neighborhoods, and we have typically tried to upgrade drainage to a degree before we complete paving. Frankly, Woodlawn is a perfect example. We were paving the road, and that had another substandard drainage in that system, and we installed it because in contemplation of paving. And this is just another similar area it's just a long-term ongoing issue that's been years. On Yarmouth, we have, to a lesser degree, Yarmouth, we just have one or two areas where we just need to install a catch basin, and I'm working with the DPW. We're probably either, some of the work may be done by DPW, or we're just going to hire a local contractor, and that's minor work, and we'll get that work done shortly, but it's more of these larger capital items with the curb and the drainage. It's just a consideration that needs to be made.
To do the paving, you need to do the curbing first, right? Or it doesn't matter?
No, you have to, we can pave without the curbing, but we're not going to eliminate the drainage issues that we have.
Okay, because you already have, if you have the money ready to go for paving, can we just continue with that, do it, then do the curbing, depending on, discuss with the
Because
residents? No?
the sole reason for the curbing is so that the curbing can be surveyed, so it's set at a
Sure.
very
Okay.
specific
I got it.
elevation, and so that's setting the
That's setting,
controls.
yeah.
You know, we can go to, another option is to try to do a leveling course and set grade stakes on the sides, and it just, that's a very expensive, now all of a sudden, we're spending so much money on establishing control paving project, that it would be a shame to spend that money on the paving when some of that could have just went for the curbing, and it's just not, it'll raise it very expensive.
Okay, so we'll have to figure it out. So we have to
Yeah,
put it as
it's just a decision that-
discussion item, next meeting maybe, we'll figure it out and ask, get with the residents if you need to, and just get it done, you know, we'll have to. All right, anything else you have,
Yeah,
John?
just the Morris County Parks Commission has identified a grant program for construction of trails. And so we do have some time, but we do need to make I would suggest we take advantage of the opportunity and at least submit an application for possible trails. The one suggestion I had that the Dixie Dale development, as part of that development, they are installing a trail, a loop on their development, and that loop was contemplated to actually work with, we don't have a trail there at the moment, but on Hillside, between Hillside and Southern, we have that piece of property, Old Everett property, and you know, possibly look at an application to include extending a trail onto that property, which would complement the Dixie Dale Trail and just have a very large loop around that property. And that would be a good, because right now, you know, it may be, the trails typically, you go to, hey, this may be a Boy Scout project or something, but that particular piece of property was really devastated in Hurricane Sandy with a lot of trees coming down. So, you know, taking a grant opportunity and possibly getting $50,000 or $75,000, even though it's a simple trail, but there's a lot of trees to be removed in that piece of property. So this may just be an opportunity to complete that trail. So that's one suggestion. We have a little bit of time, but you know, we have about, you know, another month or so before we should make a decision on where we want to put that application in.
Thank you, John.
One more?
You have more? You have more? Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm
Okay, go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to follow up with Morris County, and this is a relatively simple discussion, and it's because the improvements on Shunpike and Green Village Road, the intersection, and I just want to be absolutely sure that, I believe the committee's decision is that we do not want to go through any major modifications on that intersection. We basically want to direct the county to complete their road resurfacing and improvements with the current configuration. I just want to just, you know,
Yeah, I believe we had kind of beaten a dead horse at one point in time over that matter, and whether we were going to attempt to make it more pedestrian-friendly when it's actually not a pedestrian-friendly kind of place. We were talking about modifying the intersection where Green Village actually meets the Ace Hardware exit there. That was a great concern about access to the Green Village Fire Department, because as they brought their rigs through in the event of an emergency, they were very concerned about that. You know, we're looking at it from a complete streets perspective, but they're looking at it as a public safety measure. People who travel that corridor every day on their way to Morristown and back would be suffering greatly from a narrowing of the roadway down to one lane each way. So I think
Yeah, it
the
wasn't
basic
really-
configuration of the intersection of that entire corridor, the basic configuration is probably what works best.
Because I
over
think
the
go to the
years.
planning board did not,
Right.
you know, have a favorable recommendation, but I
No.
don't believe it ever came back to the committee as a
Right.
final decision of, you know, and so it kind of died at the planning board. So the county is frankly just looking for an official response from us that, you know, we do not want to proceed with what was proposed and just let them know.
Right, I don't even think it got to the planning board, if I'm not mistaken. I
No,
think it just kind of died a quiet death here, and we never
No, yeah,
actually
yeah, I
went back
recall.
to the county to say no. The traffic signal at that intersection is a bad traffic signal, though. The one right where Ace Hardware exits onto the intersection of Green Village and Shunpike. It's an old traffic signal. I don't think it's been upgraded. It's dim in the bright light of day. The green is not visible. While they're going to go in and do this, are we going to have to end up paying for part of the traffic light? It really does need I think that traffic light really
That's a
needs to
question
be
for them. I
upgraded.
think that upgrading that traffic light was part of this project.
it
Now that
was.
this project is not going forward,
No.
they need to think of another project that involves upgrading it. And I don't know if that light, there are certain intersections where we're responsible for the lights. I'm not sure if that's one of them. So that's a
Right.
question for them.
I think that at one point in time, we had a credit balance with the county, so when it came to paying for that traffic light, we were actually able to apply the money that they owed us towards our share of paying for that traffic light. It's probably back in the, maybe Debbie can even dig it out, but I think we've been sort of running a balance and credit balance kind of thing with. Yeah. Right, I'm not sure, right.
I'm sorry.
But I think as we,
Collect that money because yeah, we
either
were.
collect the money or put a new traffic light in.
Probably best to get it in hand and then give it back to them if we have to.
Right. Okay, well, as long as we include that in the discussion. I think that traffic light is indefinite.
That's it?
Okay.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay,
I got
go
a few
once
more,
and
but
twice.
I get
Okay,
the
all right.
Yeah, right,
Because I will say a few things about Sean Pike, but when I do my report. Okay, Bob, anything you have?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have about 49 items.
All right, then I'm going to skip.
We'll speak in Klingon so we can get it done quickly. I just wanted to thank John because he covered the meeting for the grants on behalf of the township, and it was on short notice. And we had talked about a couple of different options, but that seemed to be an option that was the best value, was to look at some kind of bike or walking path somewhere in the township. So thank you for doing that. On my report, we will talk about the 2019 municipal budget, but before we do that, the rest of the report, we're going to have to get down and get a little dirty. Part of my report has to do with the fact that we've noticed an increase, particularly our DPW, in dogs that are defecating on municipal property, and there's been an uptick in people not cleaning up after their animals, and they need to do that because we're going to start enforcing the ordinances, but you know, people should be responsible. Our DPW should not be picking up dog poop off of a synthetic turf field, and it's been happening on a more regular basis. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. So I looked out this afternoon, or actually around 6:15 tonight, there was a car, a black sedan, and there was a dog on the field, and the owner didn't clean up after the dog. So it's spring, we're out on the fields, we have kids out there, we need to clean up after our animals. Let's just do the right thing. So our the DPW, we've had some meetings, we've talked about it at safety committee meetings. There's no reason why people should put number 2 in flower pots and wait for somebody else to pick that up. So just pick up after your dogs, do the right thing, be civic. So that's one item.
That's a shame you have to say that. That really is.
It
It's
is,
a
it is.
total tragedy in this community that you have to ask our residents to clean up after their dogs. I'm embarrassed for everybody.
Well, I thank our DPW for bringing this up at one of our meetings, but it's just, synthetic turf fields, just be careful. On that's a segue to our some work that's going to be done at our wastewater treatment plant. So over the next few years, we have some improvements that are contemplated there, but our wastewater staff has noticed an increase there. We're doing a lot more repairs, and we're doing repairs because people are getting rid of material down the toilet, and there's everything from there's T-shirts, there's pieces of jeans that are going through the system. There's dental floss. There's prescription drugs that are going through there. People are just not only just flushing the medication down, but they're flushing it down in the plastic vial. So we're winding up doing maintenance, and then we're getting more hypodermic needles and things like that are in there. So just if people can be careful, that we're having problems with Q-tips, baby wipes, all sorts of things like that, diapers that are going down there. just, that's what we have our garbage for. So just, please be vigilant on that, because we don't want to have our wastewater treatment plant come offline because, because the ball bearings and things like that are getting fouled. So those are my two items that are the down and dirty, just as a due diligence for that. On a more positive note, we are looking forward to opening proposals for the operation of the concession stand at the Colony Pool. So the opening of the concession stand RFP will be next Thursday, May 2nd at 10 o'clock. So there are currently 9 RFPs that have been let out, or have been presented to different food establishments, and we're hoping that 1 or 2 will decide to give us a proposal and to operate the concession stand. The other item that I will report on before we go to the 2019 budget is that today I finished my civic duty as a juror. So that's one of the rights and responsibilities that we have as citizens in our country. Every citizen has the right to have a trial and be judged by a jury of their peers. It is not always the most convenient time to go and become a juror whenever you're called, but it's something that that as adults we're all required to do, and it was interesting to be picked and to serve on a jury, and then not to have to serve on a jury. But it's nice to be able to step out of our normal day-to-day roles and realize that there is something more important than what we do on a day-to-day basis, and that's to help our fellow citizens, and that's to make sure that whatever comes up, that if there's a matter that's either of litigation or of a criminal nature, that people have the right to be judged by the facts and to be judged by their peers. So that's my civic lessons for today.
Can I ask you a question, Bob? Over the years, we've had a tradition of extending summer employment opportunities to the youth of our community, obviously in the form of lifeguards and snack bar help, et cetera, at the Colony Pool. But throughout town, DPW most specifically has hired seasonal young people. Do we still have roles both here in administrative area and out there on the road? Are we
Yes, we
still
do.
looking?
Yes, we do. We're looking. We've been looking kind of low-key. If the Township Committee desires to pass the budget tonight or adopt the budget tonight, we will go full bore with that, because there are spots available. We have had inquiries. We have extended conditional offers to, I believe, 11 lifeguards for the Colony Pool, and our pool manager is going through and evaluating staff for the gatekeeper's position, and then a couple of DPW positions for maintenance during the summer in the pool. But yes, by all means, if anybody's interested in summer employment, please contact the
Right.
Township.
Just need to wield a paintbrush, go painting every sign pole in Chatham Township this summer.
Well, we'd also like them to scrape before they paint. And then
A little
and then
scraping.
we have some other projects that they can
Good.
help us with. as well.
Okay, we'll send them in.
That's my report.
Thank you, Bob. And Al, anything? Albert, no? Chief, anything? Okay. And Tracy, anything, any reports?
My apologies for being late. It's summer buying season, and my clients just did not want to leave the house they were in, so my apologies. I see Maureen and Kara and Dot who from the Environmental Commission, and we spent the better part of the morning planting these seedlings in mulch. A big thanks for the emergency call out to Rich Young at DPW, who drove over, I think actually on the backhoe, and showed up roaring down the hill and got us the mulch that we needed to plant. It was 1,000 trees, seedlings, not trees. So they're seedlings. So the seedling sale will be this Saturday at the Tanglewood Recycling Center. We'll start promptly at 9. 8, okay, 8. You even did this. 8, okay, 8 o'clock. And it was really well attended last year. And there's even more species this year. So I encourage everyone to come out, and hopefully the rain will stop and you'll have nicely soaked root systems. And then we encourage everybody when they plant them to send us their pictures of their trees as they tend them and as they grow. Free trees. Free trees. Let me say that again. Free trees. You just have to show up. We're still looking for a member for our rec advisory board. So if anybody has an interest or knows somebody who has an interest in K-8 sports or just sports in general, we do have a position open on our recreation advisory committee. So please feel free to forward a leadership form. Our communication committee met. Mike, did you talk about that?
Talked about Tom Salvis's
Okay, perfect.
notice, yes.
Okay, thank you. Tom, we don't want you to go, so. And I had the opportunity to participate in a traffic planning committee meeting that was held with the mayors and with local assembly leaders. Mikey Sherrill was there. There was Morris County freeholders were there. And it was a very interesting meeting talking about the planning of traffic flows as people are not only chasing ratables as we have with the development in the areas of Florham Park, but also with the each of the communities' impending affordable housing agreements, and what that will do to the traffic, which, we have traffic backed up on Southern Boulevard all the way back to Southern Boulevard School starting at 4:30. So it's it doesn't just affect the downtown in Chatham Borough with coming off of 24 and going all the way through Madison. And it was a very interesting meeting because the mayors were really calling for a regional approach for Morris County to be involved in this process and for the mayors to work together and talk about planning ahead for what developments are to come and then what the traffic patterns should be as a result of that coming development. So it was a really interesting meeting to be part of. So that was just something from a broader perspective. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. And I have a couple of things to say. A few days, actually a couple of weeks ago, we were going out to dinner with my wife, and she's driving, and we're going over Shumpike towards Chatham Borough, and she hit a big pothole. It was a big pothole, and she said, "What's going on with this road? I mean, why this is so bad? Well, potholes all over the place." And I said, I don't know. I mean, it's bad winter we had. And she goes, "What kind of mayor you are?" And I said, "Honey, this is a county road. And so what do you want me to do?" And she goes, "Just get it fixed." And, it's not that easy, obviously. And then next day, I got an email from one of the residents saying exactly the same thing. And why can't we get this Shumpike fixed? And I responded, I said, this is a county road, and we'll try to do what we can. And I got in touch with John, and we checked the county's schedule. It's apparently we're not on the schedule for this year, and not even next year. And then I sent an email, and listening to my wife, I got to get it fixed. And so I got an email back today. I should share with you. I didn't share it yet. So from the director of DPW from the county and the county engineer, Christopher Vitz. Yeah, and yeah, he wants to meet us and go over this, and he wants to help us. And whatever is the holdups are, let's see if we can get at least Shumpike fixed. And so that's one thing, and that's. And then another good thing is that, regarding Shumpike, and this is positive, and along the Cougar Field, and sidewalks are actually fixed. And I don't know if you reported that, but it was fixed. I know you talked about it a couple meetings ago. It was going to be fixed when the weather allows. Apparently, it is done. That's something good. So kids can walk there easily. That's a good thing. And one last thing I wanted to mention, that as the mayor, I am launching office hours twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays mornings. And office hours, when I say office, it's not office here, it's going to be at the Dunkin' Donuts. So, and we'll drink coffee. It's actually coffee hours. So that is an opportunity for Chatham Township residents and their mayor to connect and talk about things. And I want to hear them, and I'm sure they want to hear me. So, and this is something that I wanted to mention. And that's about it, the reports. All right. Now, on the agenda, we have the hearing of citizens' petitions, and this is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearings tonight. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. And again, this is for everything other than the ordinances that we're going to discuss later today. So, yes, please come to the microphone. Introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Jamie O'Brien, and I'm a veteran of this township. I'm also a volunteer for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. 268 Southern Boulevard, here in Chatham.
I think I did something here and it works.
Southern in Chatham. As a resident, as a volunteer, I'm here to respectfully request that the Township Committee issue a proclamation declaring June 7th as Gun Violence Awareness Day. Gun Violence Awareness Day and the Wear Orange campaign began as a way to honor the survivors of gun violence and remember the 100 men, women, and children whose lives are cut short every day by gun violence. Wearing orange as a symbol began with young people from Chicago who refused to stay silent in the face of terrible and senseless loss. When Hadia Pendleton, a 15-year-old high school student, was killed by gunfire 1 week after she performed at the 2013 presidential inauguration, her friends decided to honor her life and raise awareness by wearing orange, the color traditionally worn by hunters in the woods to protect themselves and to protect others. Since the first Gun Violence Awareness Day in 2015, hundreds of committees and organizations all over the country began commemorating the event by wearing orange, by holding community events, by turning their skylines orange, and by issuing local and state proclamations. Each year, the number of participating communities, companies, and brand partners has grown. So now today, I'm here before this body with a simple request, and that's this. There is always more that we can do and we should do to end gun violence. We therefore request that the township issue a proclamation as provided by the mayor and council by Daisy Chin, another Moms Demand Action volunteer. She sent it to the township 2 weeks ago, declaring June 7th as Gun Violence Awareness Day. And if anyone would wish to wear orange on that day, that would be fine as well. I'm also here to make a second request to our honorable mayor, and that is that he join Mayors Against Illegal Guns. In 2016, then New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg and then Boston Mayor Thomas Marino began Mayors Against Illegal Guns as a coalition of 15 mayors. They believed, as we do, that mayors are an important part of the fight against illegal guns because these leaders, mayors, are all too familiar with the toll that gun violence takes on a community. It's the mayor who takes the late-night call when a police officer is shot or when a child is killed. We believe that mayors have a unique understanding and command of the leadership position that is needed to promote common sense gun laws and save lives. We therefore respectfully request that the township mayor join the 1,000 mayors across the United States, the 102 mayors in New Jersey, and the 10 mayors now in Morris County who have joined Mayors Against Illegal Guns. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, Kara Fieser, 3 Falmouth Road. I just wanted to take a few minutes to comment and actually commend the Township Committee from last year for making the forward-thinking and right decision to change over our fields, our playing fields and Colony Pool from conventional pesticide use to organic land care. You know, recently Chatham Township was recognized as being one of the safest places to live. And when I think about safety, I just don't think about it in terms of crimes and statistics such as that. I also think about it in terms of safety in protecting our children in certain health matters and protecting our children from toxic pesticides on the playing fields. And what I mean by pesticides are things like weed killers, grub control, fungicides that are used on these fields. The evidence is forever growing that pesticides are linked to things like cancers, respiratory issues like asthma, endocrine problems like diabetes, birth defects, behavioral problems. I even recently just read something how now these chemicals have the potential to turn on and off genes, not only just impacting the person that comes in contact with pesticides, but future generations to come. So when lawns and playing fields are treated with these chemicals, small children have an intimate contact with these chemicals. So if you think about it, your kid is in the outfield, they go to dive for a ball, they dive into the grass, they pick up the ball, they throw the ball to first plate, to second plate, or base. Is it plate or base? I don't know. But each time that ball is being touched is another point of the pesticides being transmitted to the person's hand, almost like a germ. And then those kids go out to celebrate, they're winning the game, and they eat pizza with those hands. And the little baby brother that was on the sidelines watching their big sister play, rolling around in the grass, probably pulling at the grass, most definitely putting their hands in her mouth, has now also ingested these chemicals. They're exposed to it through contact, through ingestion, through the air that they breathe. Not only did the Township Committee, you guys up there, including Kurt, make the right choice in going pesticide-free, but you guys did it in the right way by getting what's called a Northeast Organic Farming Association certified landscaper. What that means is that there's plenty of greenwashing out there from companies and from products that say they are safe, that they are natural, that they are organic. But there's no definition about these words. It's very, very loosely defined, if at all. These landscapers have to abide by a very strict 64-page guideline in terms of their practices as well as the products they can use. There's a certain specific list that they can only work off of when they're applying this stuff. So when you guys made that decision last year to go pesticide-free, use a NOFA certified landscaper, I know that you guys made this town safer for our kids. Safer every day for those more than 2,000 plus kids to play and not have to worry about something that they're too young to understand. So my hope is in moving forward, we continue with these practices that we're using now, because you just can't put a price on the value of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Hello, Kathy Abbott, 40 Winwood Road. And as you know, I was on the Township Committee, but before I was on the Township Committee, I was on the Safe Routes to School Committee. That started in 2011. And so I have a request. I'm still on it, but I'm not in the leadership of it. So I started on that committee concerned about sidewalk and pedestrian safety before I was an elected official, and then continued after. In the work with at least a dozen other people at a time, we got the sidewalk grant for Lafayette East Side, plus Spring Street, which helps thousands of well, not thousands of children walk necessarily, but hundreds and hundreds of children walk to get to school at sites where there are thousands of children, especially the high school and Lafayette School area. And then we have the Shunpike sidewalk from Pine Street to Falmouth that was already approved but is still not built. And then the third, Safe Routes to School, is there another one? Now, well, this is the thing. There's a problem where we don't have a list of sidewalks. And in fact, during the time that we got those sidewalks approved and came back for the design grants, and so when things were coming back and forth, members of the Township Committee who were newer were unaware of the stage that we were in, that they were applied for Safe Routes to School funding, full funding, with a resolution of the Township Committee. So things were already approved, and then some people were surprised, and some people tried to push back on those when really they were already approved. But the point is, I would like to see the circulation element of the master plan completed. I had worked on it for 2 years, in 2013 and 2014, and it was at the very final phases. It had come to this governing body as an outline, then gone to the planning board. The planning board approved different phases of it, and then it was rejected last minute. So we need a circulation element. The one, unless I'm wrong, and I looked, it's not even up on the website anymore, our circulation element is from 1999. And that, if you look at it, it's absolutely very old-fashioned, only concerned with, is there enough room for a left turn at a certain intersection? It was all about driving. And now we have the pedestrian safety, bike safety elements that are part of something that's 10 years old called Complete Streets, more than 10 years old. It's, I think, it was a national program started in 2007. And our county has adopted it, many New Jersey towns have adopted it. We don't have a complete streets policy, and we haven't quite finished the circulation element, which is tabled but almost finished, that mentions complete streets. So I'm asking for a list of sidewalk projects, and I'd like John to say also the schedule that John Rushke, the schedule that for finishing these sidewalks, because there's also even naming the proposed sidewalks that were Safe Routes to School grants or municipal aid grants, TAP grants. I know we just got word that we got funding for a municipal aid grant that partially funds the Fairmont sidewalk. So we need them all written down, so there's no question, so they can even be listed on the website, listed on a map. We've just never had a really good sidewalk plan that was published, as far as I know. We do have a 2009 bikeway and walkway and bikeway piece that's adopted into the master plan, but it is not the circulation element. So we need that as part of the circulation element. It needs to all be integrated in writing, so there's not questions either for the governing body, the planning board, or the public about where we are with our pedestrian safety and infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, couldn't find it, but it's still the 1999 version, right, Greg? Because the other one was never passed. And we're out of compliance by literally 10 years. It was supposed to be updated every 10 years, and we're out of compliance by 10 years. So that had something to do with the political currents of the last several years, but that's fixable. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Fran Drew. I live at 32 Inwood Road in Chatham. I have some packets. May I bring them up?
Sure, definitely.
These packets are for each of you, but please do not open them until I start to speak, and then I'd like to direct you to some of the pictures in them, okay? On Wednesday, March 13th, while driving on Shunpike by Cougar Field, my husband Jack and I saw men in trucks from Morris County cutting down perfectly tall, beautiful evergreens. This is a picture, and you can open to the first picture in your folder, which shows the evergreens and the trucks from Morris County. and the men starting to cut down the trees. One of the men, when I asked him, how come you're cutting down these trees? Who told you to do this? He told me, the man in the truck said, the high school asked him to cut the trees down because they were getting complaints that the kids were tripping on the sidewalk. On Thursday, 2 days later, March 15th, at noon, I went to the high school and asked the principal. She said she didn't know anything about it, go to the BOE. So I went to the BOE and spoke with Peter D'Aquila, the business administrator. He told me that they were getting calls from Chatham Borough Council that the sidewalk needed to be fixed. I appeared before Chatham Borough Council, and they told me publicly that none of them were ever contacted. Mr. D'Aquila said a contractor was hired to fix the sidewalk, and the contractor would do it when the weather was better. He told me that the Chatham Borough Councilwoman, Carolyn Dempsey, and also Tracy Netz for here, were involved. Carolyn Dempsey, who I met with, said she was never contacted. Later that day, I got another call from Peter D'Aquila. He told me that he learned that when the county was called to look at the trees, they said the trees were rotted and needed to come down. On Monday, March 18th, when I drove by at noon, more trees were coming down. 2 days later, all the trees were down. This is what it looked like with the trees up. This is what it looks like with the trees down. So what we then had are 9 trunks where we had 9 beautiful, healthy evergreens. Since no one seemed to know who said to do what, I called Michael Walsh, the County Shade Tree Commission. Michael told me that the janitor at the school told him to take the trees down. He couldn't remember the name of the janitor. When I asked Michael if he had an arborist look at the trees, he said no. I am a member of the Chatham Shade Tree Commission, and I can tell you that most of those trees were perfectly healthy. When I called Peter D'Aquila again and asked for the janitor's name who told him to take the trees down, he couldn't answer that. He told me he'd love to have more trees at Cougar Field. This week, just earlier this week, on April 23rd, a new asphalt sidewalk appeared. And if you take a look in your folder, first of all, you'll see individual pictures of all these trunks that my husband took. But you will also see the new asphalt sidewalk that was put in April 23rd, Tuesday. That sidewalk could have easily been put in with the evergreens left there. Then just yesterday on April, sir, did you want to say something?
You have 1 minute to wrap up?
Everybody else took 5 minutes.
No.
I measured it, I'm sorry.
I'm measuring it too.
Just yesterday, April 24th, some outfit came along and ground up all the tree trunks that were left. And in your folder, you'll see that. All the ground, they're all done. This tree slaughter on Shunpike along Cougar Field is a terrible disaster, and no one can tell me who asked the county to take the trees down. Not only was there miscommunication, no communication, but the community lost the most precious, beautiful trees. What I'm asking you to do is to plant 9 new green giant arborvitae. I have a picture of what that looks like. I planted them on the back of my backyard on 32 Inwood Road. If you want to see them, I planted them 10 years ago. They're very narrow, straight evergreens. They're called green giant arborvitae, and I'd love you to come and look at it. Even if I'm not there, go in the backyard, 32 Inwood. Take a look at them. And then you can plant them either along Shunpike, if you want to take the wires down and put them in the Road, that can be done. I'm on the undergrounding wire advisory committee in Chatham also, looking at to put all of our wires underground so we don't have JCP&L ruining our tree canopy. In your folder, lastly, I have also included a copy of a CD made by Christy Chamora. She's a member of the Chatham Shade Tree Commission. She's a harpist. She's a musician. She wrote this beautiful song about trees, and I'm giving each of you that CD, and I'm suggesting that maybe at some time you can listen to it. And Christy is doing a free concert at the ECLC Chatham School Auditorium on Lum Avenue Sunday, April 28th, to celebrate Arbor Day. Everyone is invited. It's free from 2 to 3. And what I'm asking you is please plant those evergreens back, okay? And I'd like to talk with you at some time, Tracy.
Yeah, I'm happy to address it. We had gotten complaints from people who walked that macadam sidewalk that there was rebar sticking up, that it had heaved in different areas, that it was a safety hazard, that they didn't want the kids walking on it. It had well outlived its useful life. So I put a call into the Board of Education office, and I said, we've gotten these complaints. I forwarded them over, and they said, great, because it's on our schedule to redo. There was never any mention of removing trees. They just simply said, it's on our maintenance schedule. We're aware of it. As soon as the weather allows, we're going to be fixing the macadam sidewalk. And then Karen, I think you had some updates too on the trees.
Yeah. Going back to the beginning that you're talking about, actually, Mrs. Drew.
Yes.
We had been in touch with JCP&L regarding the pruning of the trees.
Mm-hmm.
The JCP&L people established that several of the trees were actually compromised in their health, contrary to what you're saying. They have actually told us that there are some of those stumps that are hollow. Some of those stumps were actually corroded and eroded. The safety concern to the children on that sidewalk and other recreational pedestrians was completely legitimate. That sidewalk was perilous. It was covered in mud. It was covered in runoff from the areas where it would collect, where the roots had heaved it up. That's my neighborhood. I walk there all the time, and it is actually frightening. And so for the Board of Education to call for replacing that sidewalk was 100% correct, but why would you replace a sidewalk that was only going to continue to heave because of those tree roots? So they did what they thought was correct in the interest of the safety of the students who traverse that every day.
I agree with you about the sidewalk. If you look at the picture in there, the sidewalk that was put in was asphalt. It's 5 inches high. Asphalt sidewalks are put in where there are trees along the curb. That asphalt sidewalk could have been put in. None of the trees come down. No arborist looked at those trees. And if you, excuse me, but if you have a moment at some point, tonight, tomorrow, next week, look at all those photos of the trunks. One photo, one tree, the trunk has a hole in it. None of the others do. And if you also look at the picture in there of the guys cutting the branches off the tree, you can actually see the branches totally solid. No arborist went there to look at it. That was
at the end of the day, it was a decision that was made between the Board of Education and Morris County.
What Board of Education person? Peter DeQuilla didn't know anyone.
That's their property. They were the ones who made the decision.
Who at the Board of Education?
I don't know. It's their property, Mrs. Drew.
Now, let me...
They didn't know. Peter DeQuilla didn't know.
Now, with all due respect, we have an agenda with the budget presentation and other members of the public waiting. And with all due respect, I would like to move on. And,
Okay.
And we can definitely follow up on your concerns. And thank you for all that hard work. And I appreciate it. And we'll be following up.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I would at some point, Mayor, like to know who said to cut the trees down and if you can put the trees back up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add one more thing on that.
Sure.
Mrs. Drew, you might want to go to the Board of Education meeting on Monday night and present a similar, exactly what you presented to us. Because as I said, we just forwarded on the residents' complaints. We were told that it was already on their schedule to repair, and there was nothing said about the trees. So, Board of Education is on Monday night.
Here?
No, it's at the high school media center. It starts at 7:30 p.m., and there is similar time for residents to speak.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
That's great, great guidance. Yes, anyone else would like to come forward?
Hello, everybody. Rez Estevez, Southern Boulevard in the Township. With respect to the summer camp, I'm wondering whether the Township Committee can provide this evening an overview of how are those enrollments coming along? Are they on track to cover the costs of this summer camp? Of course, there's time yet. There may be increases in enrollment, and I certainly don't have the visibility that others would have with greater knowledge of this. But my question pertains to, are we on track to breaking even? Are we on track to losing money? Is it making money? I'd appreciate a response.
Sure,
To the
I'm
extent
happy to
that the,
answer.
yeah.
So the Colony Pool Committee worked very hard to put together a presentation to bring back the Colony Pool Camp, and this was done at no cost to the township. So there's no one hired. There's no staff hired. There's nothing hired. So the deal was that we would get 30 campers at a minimum. That was break even with a little bit of profit. And the top end, at 50 campers a week, we could potentially make $20,000 in profit, and try and not only provide a community service, but provide money back into Colony Pool, as it lost $30,000 last year.
And what is the enrollment at this time of people who have committed to enrollments?
So we have people, the last that I heard, and this was before spring break, was 49 sections were filled. What I don't know is how many unique families there are, Bob, and maybe you know?
Are we talking about Colony Pool or the Colony Pool Camp?
The Colony Pool
The camp.
There were 49 sections filled, but I don't know how many unique families there are.
Is it
And
in,
this was 2
There's-
weeks ago.
there's time yet. Who's to say what will come through? Is there like a data check, a spot check to determine on track, in the red, in the black?
We're not in the red and the black res because there is no money being expended.
No, but you can
So-
certainly project forward for your revenues coming in,
Yeah,
given the
and we have those
expenditures to be
projections.
occur. And that's precisely what I'm asking
Yeah.
for.
So we don't know yet. So we need 30 campers a week for the weeks that the camps are being held. And with that projection, it should break even or make $2,000 to $3,000.
That would be a great scenario to actually have actualized. In the event it does not break even, what's the plan?
The camp won't run.
Okay,
So
good to know. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Rez. Anyone else would like to come up forward?
popular question tonight.
Yeah, hi, I'm Greg Borsinger. I live on 17 Pembroke Road. I just wanted to communicate, as I talk to people in my neighborhood, there's a lot of people upset about the extent of the massive development going on in the area, especially with related to woodland. And I know the board has requested the planning board to look at a floor area ratio ordinance, but I get the sense there's not a sense of urgency there. I just wanted to point out three things about floor area ratio. The first is that if you look at the towns around Chatham, many or most of them actually have floor area ratio ordinances in effect. I've talked to some other councilmen in other towns. They're very surprised that we don't have one. So you're not cutting new ground here. This is something that's used quite often to limit the extent of development on a small property especially. The second is that I've heard pushback about people aren't able to develop their property. And the reality is that an existing homeowner could either sell to a developer or sell to a private individual, and they get about the same amount of money whether they sell to one or the other. And the only benefit of not having a floor area ratio ordinance is really to the builder, because people could sell their house, for the same value. The third is Chatham's a pretty attractive community to live in, and we have a limited amount of affordable housing where there's actually a lot, and a lot of them are in this woodland area. And from the standpoint of keeping diversity of housing in the neighborhood in Chatham, I think it's important to do something about the massive development that's occurring before it's too late. Once these houses are gone, they're gone. So I just encourage you to not let this fall through the cracks. Maybe get a little bit more urgency on the part of the planning board to take a look at this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward? Okay. If no one else, then I'm closing the floor to the public. And now we have several ordinances on the agenda. And first, before I open to the public, I will ask Bob to give us some feedback what we are about to speak here, what we are about to hear from you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we're going to do is we're going to do an overview of the 2019 municipal budget. There's a public hearing tonight on the municipal budget, and if the Township Committee so wishes, they will be able to vote on it and adopt the budget. And then the staff will be able to move forward with implementing some of the goals and policies that the Township Committee has directed in the past. As we set this up, I'd like to let the Township Committee know, as well as our residents, that tonight we almost did not have the opportunity to vote on this budget. And the reason that we almost didn't have that opportunity is because every 3 years the state requires that the municipalities send down their budget to the state so that it can conduct a review of the budget. So after we introduced our budget, we sent that down to the state. We were one of the 189 communities that sent it down this year because it's on a 3-year cycle. So it was sent down to the state, as well as some other financial information reports, the annual financial statements, things of that nature. The state did not, because they had so many to review and there's less and less staff members at the state to review it, they are taking longer and longer to review the budgets that were submitted. As of last night at 4 o'clock, we had not received any information from the state about whether we could, whether they were going to give authorization to adopt the budget tonight or not. The state sent an email to our CFO and to the audit partner for our firm that they had questions about the budget and some of the financial statements. And most times people that look at government, they have the wrong opinion of the professional staffing that work in government and work for government. So early this morning, both the audit partner, Valerie Dolan, and some of her staff, as well as our CFO, Deb King, were up early and they were on the ball. So before 7 o'clock in the morning, they were looking at the emails, they were looking and working on the financial statements. I didn't want to call too early, but at 7:11 this morning, I called and I spoke with Deb, and she basically hurried me off the phone so they could get back to work and make sure they got the answers to the state. So by 10:54 this morning, the state, the township had sent down the information that the state needed to have so that they could decide whether we could introduce our budget or we could have the vote on the budget tonight. So the state contacted both our CFO and our audit partner and said, yes, we could go forward. They had one minor question on the budget. They had some other questions that were more procedural about some of the information related to other financial documents. So we're here tonight because people get up early. They probably drank a lot of coffee, and we're able to move forward. But if that had not have happened, we would not be able to talk tonight, do more than talk. We would not be able to offer the Township Committee the opportunity to vote on the 2019 budget. So I want to thank our audit team. I want to thank our CFO for their hard work early this morning, as well as probably late last night. So that leads us into our presentation for the 2019 budget. So our 2019 budget is something that the Township Committee should be proud of. The budget is made up of several different factors, but tonight what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about a little sliver on the end. If you can see the $1, the one on the right-hand side. For every tax dollar that the municipality collects to serve the needs of our residents, we keep 15 cents out of every tax dollar. And out of that 15 cents out of every tax dollar, we meet the needs of our residents. So we're able to provide 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week police protection. We're able to provide for drainage work. We're able to pave roads. We're able to do many different things that serve the needs of our residents, because we're in the customer service business, and without these funds, we would not be able to serve the needs of our residents. So the municipal budget for 2019 that the Township Committee will be asked to vote on totals $15,953,740. So that's our total budget. The Township Committee, if they opt to move forward, we will be able to implement some of our 2019 projects, which includes, there's a down payment in here for capital projects that would come in a multi-part ordinance that'll be adopted later in the summer. But when a resident pays their taxes, the township is collecting that money. We collect the money for the school district, we collect the money for the county, we collect the money for the township, as we've talked about, we collect the money for the library, and we collect money for open space. And then we send that money to other places. So we send it to the school district, we send it to the county, we send it to the library, and we send it to the library. And we keep that 15 cents out of every tax dollar. So this year, the township will collect a total of $59,656,595 that will be distributed out to our other four partners in providing service to local government, or to our residents. And if you want to be really specific, we keep 14.7 cents out of every tax dollar, but I rounded it off to make it look good. So that's in the nutshell. So what we talk about this year is 15 cents out of every tax dollar. So if you want to have a nice little fact, that $15 million breaks out to $306,803 a week. It breaks out to $43,829 a day, or $1,826 an hour, $30.43 a minute, or 51 cents a second. So now you'll know if we waste time that it cost us 51 cents a second when we go through that. All right. For the municipal purpose, our tax rate per $100 of assessed value in 2019 is going to be 0.273 cents. So that's gone down from 2018 when it was 2.77 cents per $100 of assessed value. So I was asked by Ed, when the last time the township tax rate was this low, and I said I wasn't sure, because I wasn't. And there was a reval that looks like back in 2002 or 2003, because the tax rate was higher. It was in the fours before that. So this slide, which we'll clean up, and we're going to put this on the website, but I'm going to make the numbers bigger. 24% of our budget is used for public safety. So that's for the police, and some of that is also for the fire department. But most of that is to provide public safety, which is our 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week protection. Then we have 16% of our budget is for the DPW. It's used for the DPW, so it's for everything from pothole repairs to cleaning out drain lines to maintenance, to the purchase of equipment that we need. It's for fuel for vehicles, things of that nature. We have 11% of our budget is used as a reserve for uncollected taxes. So we have to make sure that we have sufficient funds available in case people don't pay their taxes. And we have a very good situation here because our tax collection rate has actually increased. So that's something that's good. One of the other things that's important to note in our budget is that if there is a tax appeal and the property owner is successful in a tax appeal meeting, they are entitled to have a return of money from the government. All of those funds come from the municipality, so they all come from the township. So if a resident is entitled to a tax refund of, I don't know, say $10,000, we can't go to the school district and say, you owe us a portion of that, and we can't go to the county and say, you owe us a portion of that. That all has to come from the municipality. So that's one of the reasons why you've heard over the course of the last few months when we talk about the importance of surplus. The importance of surplus is because we have to pay those refunds from the township. We can't go back to other levels of government and ask them for funds that you're entitled to. So we also have about 9% of our budget goes to state mandated deferred charges. It's really statutory charges such as a match for Social Security. When our employees pay Social Security, the township has to match it. It's a match for the pension payments that are made, and also a match for Medicare, some things of that nature. So I like the dollar better than this pie chart, but that was in there before. The good news about the budget is that for 2019, there's going to be a tax decrease of $24.15 for each property owner, and that's based on an assessed value of $805,000 for a house. So the township has worked very hard to make sure that the services that are provided are spot on, they're efficient, they're effective, and that they're timely. So those are some of the things that go into embedding the theory for how our budget should work. And this is a look at the fund balance or the surplus going back to 2008. As you can see, at the end of 2018, we had $4,341,974 in surplus. So we have things called budget caps. What are budget caps? The budget caps are basically, we have an appropriation cap, which is for spending, and the state sets the level for how much of your spending can go up on the appropriation side. So this year, the state has said that you can go up 2.5% for the spending side, and for the levy side, which is basically the revenue side, it can only go up 2% a year. So unless you can manage that critically, you're going to have, you wind up having an imbalance. And so that's why it's important to understand and carefully manage both caps and look at your municipal spending. The township is doing a good job on managing the caps and looking at the spending and making sure we don't have an imbalanced budget. And the reason that I can say that with confidence is Moody's agrees. Moody's just reaffirmed the township's AAA credit rating. So that was done on April 9th of this year. And that will help us in the future. That will mean that the interest that we have to pay on future debts will be less because we're a better credit risk. So here's a comparison slide between the 2018 budget year and the 2019 budget year. So you can see that what we project our revenues to be, how much surplus we've used, as we talked about at the introduction of the budget. We used $3.5 million worth of surplus this year. And, last year we had used $3 million. We used the $500,000 because we had several expenses that were absorbed, that had to be absorbed into the budget. A significant portion of those came from recycling. So we had recycling fees that were absorbed from the end of 2018 and are being paid in 2019. You can see that the library will be receiving an increase of $119,190 based on the increased assessments of the township. So these are just some of the highlights from the revenue side of the budget on top, and then you can see what our general appropriations are on the bottom there. So this talks about the calculations for the levy cap bank calculation. That'll be on the website, and we can send that out to people. It just explains the 2.5% appropriation calculation and what's available. This slide is something that I believe is important because for the last 9 years, the township's aid has been flat. But that doesn't mean our expenses have been flat or our purchasing power is flat. So that you can see that the inflation rate in 2011 was 3%. And in 2012, it was 1.7%. This is the inflation rate that was published in the federal government, by the federal government, and it's adjusted at the end of each year. So even though state aid stays flat, that means that we have less purchasing power. So that means that we have lost 13.8% of our purchasing power because state aid has been flat. That's the equivalent of having to absorb in our budget $115,432.45. So you ask, why do we use a little more surplus each year? Because state aid is staying flat, so we are losing purchasing power, and that's one of the ways that we can make it up. The last bullet point you see is something that I will be talking about more as we go into the 2020 budget, because state aid is a misnomer. It's not state aid. It's money that the state has taken away from municipalities going back to the 1980s. State aid is really the receipts that municipalities received for the use of the right-of-way. It goes back to the 1880s when the ground was dug up for telegraph lines and then telephone poles, things of that nature. All of those funds used to come to the local government, and then the state said they had a better idea. They would be able to distribute it faster and more equitably. And so they did that. They had an administrative fee, and that became a greater percentage of the gross receipts that they were taking from local government. And then, abracadabra, they decided to call it state aid, and it's not state aid. It's money that belongs to municipalities, but the state has used it over the last several decades. I'm not on a soapbox, but I'm going to bring one in when we come to the 2020 budget about that. This is just a historic slide for the portion of money that we collect for the school district. So these are the school district taxes going back to 2007. And you can see that this year the school district budget is going to be $39,736,727. So that's an increase over last year of $779,543. County taxes are going up. So county taxes in 2018 were were $9,308,141. This year, they're at $9,577,656. So that equates to about 16 cents out of every tax dollar that's collected from our residents goes to Morris County for the goods and services that they provide to us. This is just a result of operations from last year. This will be up on our website, and I can answer any questions about that offline. These are just, I had talked about structural imbalances, and this is a slide that talks about how to offset some of the structural imbalances and what are we doing in 2019 and 2020 to help with that. So one of the things that we're doing is we are engaged in an energy efficiency study with PSE&G and their subcontractor to look at our energy costs to see how we will be able to reduce some of those costs in the future. As an example, in round numbers, in 2018, the utility bills on this building were about $120,000. When you include heat, gas, water, things of that nature. So what kind of programs can we take advantage of to reduce that $120,000 number to something that's less, more reasonable, and help make us more energy efficient here? So this is just one of the annual a slide about the annual debt statement. We have capital budget requirements. There's $92,500 that's in our budget as a 5% down payment for capital projects. The Township Committee will have the final say on what kind of capital projects we will do, but there are funds, there's a down payment in there for the purchase of 2 fire trucks for the Chatham Township Fire Department. We have needs for DPW equipment. There's an improvement schedule for Nash Field, and part of those improvements for the lights and the fields and the skating area will be covered for by a grant from the Recreation Foundation. So these are just some of the highlights of the budget. But the budget's a well thought out document, and it's a work that's been in progress for a long time, for several months, and it's something that we should all be proud of because it's been a team effort. So it started several months ago, and we've worked at it. The Township Committee began working on this before the end of last year. The current Township Committee has had a lot of input into it. The Finance Committee from the Township Committee has been intimately involved in looking at the budget almost in a line-by-line fashion. The department heads and our professional staff, such as our engineer and our attorney, have also had input into it. And then our former administrator, Tom Chickarone, he started the budget process, and he did a really good job of getting the 2019 budget into shape. There were some numbers that needed to be brought in, but weren't available when he was working on it. So we have those numbers now, and we've been working with our audit team, our audit partner Valerie, and our audit manager Andrew, as well as Deb King, our CFO. So it's been a team effort, and this is something that the Township Committee can and should be proud of, and it's recommended that the Township Committee vote on this budget tonight and adopt the budget tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob, and great presentation. Thank you for all your hard work, along with our auditors and our CFO and our committee members and past township administrator and everyone who's involved with this budget. So now I will open it to the public discussion. Anyone would like to come forward and make a comment regarding our 2019 budget before we go to vote?
Hi, Stacy Ewald, 54 Nicholson Drive. I guess I just wanted to ask, going forward, and I had mentioned this to Tom, that there's just certain best practices that it would be nice to see when the budget's presented. One of them would be a breakout of the expenditures, and your pie chart was a step in the right direction with the, where you could see the breakout of the police department and things like that, but also if we could see that over a period of time. So our police department costs X this year, last year, this year it cost X. These are the drivers, we increase staff, our healthcare costs increase, those types of things. Same thing DPW administration. So they had done it once upon a time and they stopped. And for residents, it's common sense and it's good management practice. Along those lines also, we see capital expenditures each year, but it's never clear if I don't believe there's a capital fund that we're contributing to, so if there's a plan for that, but also a capital plan so that we're seeing over 5 years, what are the projections that we expect and how are we going to fund those things. And along those same lines, a financial plan going forward, which I understand there might be some discussion about that, just planning, 5-year projection on where things are going, where we expect things to go, and how we're going to manage those expenses. Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Those are all valid points. We have a capital budget. We have a capital plan that's, I believe it's on our, it's part of the budget.
40C of the actual budget document is a 6-year plan. So you will be able to see it.
Okay. Is that a statutory document or is that a plain English document? So what I'm talking about is what.
It's pretty simplistic in that it talks about purchase of equipment, purchase of fire equipment. It's clear and it says what its plan is for the 6 years.
Okay. Well, that would be great if that's presented as part of the presentation in some, simple version. That would be really great.
It should be up on the website, correct?
Yeah, because I'm one of the few people that actually will go through those documents, and I have an audit background, and I have a hard time reading through those things. So, it would be great if we had a very simple thing for the public.
Sure. Those are all fine, and you're welcome to stop in a few weeks, and we can go through the budget if you want. You had made a point about a longer-term financial plan, and that's something that the township has, but we're working on a more updated version of it. I wanted to project out what are our costs, what are our overall costs. We know what our bonded indebtedness is now, but we also know that we have to invest in infrastructure going forward. So what are the projected costs for that? How should we pay for that based on those caps? So we have the appropriations cap and we have the levy cap. How do you fit that in? So we're looking at how do you ladder those debt payments in. So there's debt that's coming off the books, and then we know that we're going to have to invest in the future. So we're looking to make sure we don't take on new debt until we have some of the older debt that's dropping off. So that's some of the things we're looking at. And then the township committee will be getting a presentation from me in the next couple of months just about our open space tax, because if in 2020, 2021, and 2022, we let the open space tax stay at 2% or 2 cents on every $100 of assessed value, we will be able to pay off some of our recent acquisitions before we have to go out for long-term debt. And to me, that makes sense. But I want to be able to do that for all of our expenses and look ahead. It's an exercise with a crystal ball, but it's well worth doing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wonderful. No, thank you. I appreciate those changes.
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward? If not, I'm closing the floor to the public, and I will ask for a motion to adopt the budget for 2019. I have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Committee discussion. Any comments from the committee members?
I would just like to thank Bob and Deb and Andrew and Valerie. I know I've seen you pass by you guys sitting at the desks there as Typhoon and I would walk in with one of our numerous meetings with Bob and Deb. You guys made me get up get there for an 8 o'clock meeting, but Typhoon was nice enough to bring coffee and donuts, so that evened it out. But I really do appreciate the ability this year to go line by line and to ask those questions that we had, or at least that I've had, after sitting through 12 or 13 years of budget presentations. So it was really tremendously helpful. Just even asking, again, like kind of where are we, what is our 5-year plan, and talking about actually putting a 5-year plan together, looking at holistically all of our needs, from recreation to colony pool, not just a road plan, but more holistically what's going on with our township and how that relates to debt, and how we get to a point where we're going to pay that debt off in order to incur good debt, which is good debt is things that improve our community. So it is greatly appreciated, and I will try to be more on time.
Thank you. And I want to clarify that coffee and donuts are not paid with the taxpayers' money.
No, they weren't.
Just want to make sure. So, any other comments from the committee?
I, too, will echo Tracy's sentiments of gratitude to the hard work that goes into doing this. We look at so many enormous budgets in other lands, in other municipalities, other entities, and we think of what a truly efficient community we live in, and exactly how seriously we take the expenditures of our taxpayers' dollars. We have a charge to keep when it comes to that responsibility to these folks. We talk about affordability, we talk about ratables, we talk about an awful lot of things that drive the bus when it comes to what pays for running Chatham Township, and it is a very, very prudent group and a very prudent philosophy, and we thank you for allowing that to shine through in all the work that you do to put this together. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. And if there are no other comments from the committee members, that I will ask Greg to call for roll call vote.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion passes. Budget is adopted.
Great job.
Yay. You guys can all go.
I'm glad we can keep the lights on.
All right. Thank you, and we're going moving forward with another ordinance, public hearing, final adoption of ordinances, and this is ordinance 2019-07, accepting deed of conservation easement for block 61, lot 16. I'll quickly read the ordinance. Heading, ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, accepting deed of conservation easement from Golden River Homes LLC for a conservation easement on and over lot 16 in block 61 as shown on the Township of Chatham tax map and commonly known as 11 Sunset Drive. And John, if you don't mind, would you please give us a feedback and explain what we're exactly doing here?
Well, basically, we had a application that went to the Board of Adjustment, and during their deliberations, it was identified that the applicant proposed to a conservation easement on the property, and there was response to concerns and issues regarding stormwater-related issues and protection of steep slopes. So basically, the developer agreed to develop this conservation easement, and the township is basically the party that's assigned to the easement.
Okay, great. Thank you, John. And then I'm opening to the public discussion. There's no one who would like to come forward, and I'm closing the floor to the public. And I'd like to ask if I have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Committee discussion. Any committee members would like to make any comments? No. Then roll call vote, please, Greg.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
And Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Greg. And now we're going into the consent agenda. And what it means is the routine consent agenda has the routine items that may be passed by a single roll call vote. Any committee member may call for a separate discussion or vote on any item. Greg, would you like to read the resolutions?
We have a light one tonight. We have Resolution 2019-106, receipt of reports, 2019-107, approving meeting minutes, 2019-108, approving executive session minutes, and 2019-109, canceling various unexpended balances.
Great, thank you, Greg. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Any committee discussion? Greg, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
And Mayor Selin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now we are moving forward with 2 discussion items and possible ordinance or resolutions. And number 1 is the bylaws amendment. And either Bob or Albert, could you please tell us and explain?
Just so you're all aware, in your packet tonight is a draft with the changes that have been discussed at previous meetings.
Excellent. Thank you, Greg.
And those changes are to Article 4, Section 3, Hearing of Citizens. In subparagraph A, it extends the time individuals may speak during the first public session of the evening to 5 minutes on items on the agenda that are not the subject of a public hearing. That individual speakers may speak for 5 minutes and may not yield their time to any other applicant or any other speaker. Part B repeats the same process for when there is a public hearing. The same rules apply. Then at the end of the meeting, you have a second public comment period. And unlike the first public comment period that is limited to items on the agenda, the second public comment period is not limited by topic. Anyone can speak on the good and general welfare of the Township of Chatham, including items that are on the agenda or not on the agenda. Again, the 5-minute rule applies, along with the speaker speaking once and not yielding time to another speaker. The third or the fourth subparagraph D states that township residents will have the opportunity to speak first before non-township residents are called. So that is as a result of the discussions that were at the last 2 township committee meetings. And as the clerk said, this is in a form, if it is acceptable to you, that you can either defer it to the next meeting, or if you'd like, you can act on it tonight.
And there was one other change that was made. Mr. Cruz brought to my attention that in Article 8, the bylaws as currently written has a section that reads that recordings will be made available to the public at the Township Clerk's office only after the related minutes have been approved by the Township Committee. The draft that you have tonight removes that section. For one thing, the current practice is that the video recordings are posted on the Township website within a couple days of the meeting, and as records custodian, my feeling is that that provision would put us in a bit of a bind for open public records request compliance. Is my feeling is that once that recording is made, it would become a public record. So I have removed that particular section. The minutes themselves would only be available after adopted, but the audio recording and the video recording, my feeling is that should be immediately available.
Thank you, Greg. As Albert said, that we could either defer this to the next meeting and we can discuss within the committee, or if we are all in agreement, if there's a consensus, we can just act on it tonight. So what are the committee members
I have a
thinking?
question about the latitude given the tenor of any given meeting, because we've seen times when we come in here and it's a full room, and we've seen times when we come in and it's a sparse room. And certainly if somebody has something that really is important, Mrs. Drew or Mrs. Feaser, along those lines where it does call for maybe a little bit more of a discussion, as opposed to coming in during a situation where we have the skate park or adding a bear hunt to our existing ordinance, where really, is there an ability for the presider of the meeting to call an audible, so to speak, Albert? I mean, we've done that on occasion. I would hate to eliminate that from anything future that we do, because eliminating the discretion of the person chairing the meeting.
Well, this rule amendment does take out that section that previously existed, that there was some discretion given to the chair of the meeting, the mayor. That discretion has been taken away from here. And for that, it was extended to an additional 2 minutes. I don't think anyone is suggesting that at 5 minutes and 2 seconds
Right,
that the
of course
person's
not.
going to be cut off. As has been done the last few meetings, there's a warning that's given to allow fair notice to the person to be able to wrap up their comments. But in terms of discretion, I think one of the issues is really uniformity. And you want to be uniform in how you treat your residents from meeting to meeting. The fact that there are either too many people or too few people really should not dictate how you treat your residents in terms of the amount of time you're given. But I don't think anyone is suggesting that, if a person is in mid-sentence or mid-thought or mid-point, that they're going to be cut off. But as I stated at the last minute, 5 minutes is a long time to speak.
Bob, you want to chime in? I think you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just as a point of fact for tonight, during the public portion, our first speaker that spoke about the gun violence proclamations spoke for 3 minutes, was articulate and spoke in 3 minutes. Our second speaker, who spoke about weed killers and fungicides and things of that nature, a member of our environmental commission, she also spoke for 3 minutes. The former member of our township committee, talking about the circulation element of the master plan, spoke for 4 minutes. And then Ms. Drew spoke for 6 minutes before Committeewoman Ness answered a question, and then there was a follow-up, but I stopped coming in at that. So we are all cognizant of that fact, but our residents are speaking within the time limits, and when they need a little bit of time, we're making they have the ability to finish up.
Anything else from anyone?
I have a concern here. I think the proposed language of the new bylaws says that during the first public portion on the agenda, speakers may comment upon items on the agenda that are not the subject of a separate public hearing scheduled for that meeting. And that's a change from the current language, which just says items that are not topics for scheduled public hearings tonight. And I'm envisioning the situation where somebody comes to the meeting with an interest in discussing a topic that's not on the agenda at all. And under these new bylaws, we'd be forcing that person to sit until the second public hearing, which still hasn't happened yet. So they'd be sitting here for several hours before they could.
And that's what happened
say their
tonight,
piece.
because we had, when Kara spoke, when Mrs. Drew spoke, they were.
None of those topics
Right.
were on the agenda.
And
So
I agree with you there.
I'd like to propose that we, and maybe ask Albert's opinion on why it crept in there, limiting that first public hearing just to items on the agenda that are not subject to separate public hearings.
Because you should hear from the public on the items that you're going to act on tonight
True.
immediately.
But do we
So-
want to limit it to that, for that
Well,
first public hearing?
It's not unusual for municipalities to limit the first public hearing or the first public portion of the meeting to the items on the agenda, because the next thing after that public portion is you're going to be acting on those items. So under the concept of primacy or recency, you're more bound to remember things that are said about that particular topic now, as opposed to having an intermixing of other topics in the meeting. Again, it's a policy decision. It didn't creep in there. I put it in there as a model from other municipalities, but to keep it consistent with what I thought was your intent, which is focus the public sessions. First public session, the items that you're going to discuss in the agenda, except the public hearings that have their own particular time for comment. And then at the end, you can speak again on anything on the agenda or anything else that you'd like. But the things that you'd like are not things you're going to be acting on that night. You'd probably be deferring them to another meeting.
I would propose that we take out that limitation, that limits it just to agenda items. I mean, I think it's unfair to the public to ask them to come in and possibly sit for 2 hours or possibly longer before they have a chance to be heard.
What if nobody wants to speak with the items on the agenda and somebody wants to speak with the item that is not on the agenda?
Well, as the deputy mayor said, then that person would speak at the second public portion.
Now, once again, you're asking for flexibility. You're asking to say, okay, here's the first public hearing. Let's talk about only what's on the agenda, but seeing no one come forward, anybody else have anything to say? That's,
Well, but
once again, that's calling an audible, and are you going to
but
allow the discretion of
Just
the...
following that logic, if nobody comes to speak, you'll get through the agenda that much quicker, and you'll get to the public session, the second public session, even faster. So, I mean, it's do you want to get the business of the committee done early and then have leisure to hear the other discussions? But again, it's a policy decision, it's not a legal issue. I did put it in consistent with my experience in other municipalities, but you're perfectly free to strike that language.
I mean, every committee member, I'm sure we all want to make it more convenient for the public, not convenient for ourselves. And I don't know what that is, so that's the question.
Yeah,
Well, then-
the administrator does raise a
Sure.
good point, is later on in your bylaws, you do have curfews.
Yes.
An 11 o'clock curfew. So if you reach that point, then you may not have gotten to your business, the normal business that's scheduled for that night. Again, it's trying to fit in the various pieces of your bylaws to make them work in a coherent manner.
Okay.
And originally, we had a 30-minute time limit, because I know we had a
Correct.
discussion about that.
Correct.
And by increasing it by 5 minutes, then you give the opportunity for 6 people to speak, versus where you had it at 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
No, but that 30 minutes was also taken out.
Yes, so I'm wondering if maybe as a compromise, that we allow people to speak for 5 minutes, we don't switch it, we let them talk about whatever they want to talk about at the first section, because I know a lot of people are busy and can't stay until, I mean, geez, our meetings are going so late nowadays that, people can't stay until 10:30 at night. We do want to hear from our residents. So maybe then the expediency of the need to get business done, we lengthen it to 5 minutes. We keep in the 30-minute time frame so that we don't go over that time frame. So we add that back in. And then people have a full 1 hour for comment, whether it's at the beginning or at the end of the meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm missing something. Where do you get an hour at the beginning of the meeting?
No, a total of an hour.
A
30
total-
minutes at the beginning,
30 at the
30 at the end, and then you have a total, we go back to what we had before, a total of an hour. But you do have a time limit of 30 minutes for public comment, and while increasing residents' ability to speak.
First, do we want to act on it tonight?
I say no.
No. What do you think?
I don't have any problem with it.
If
I mean,
we-
we've
if we
already
act on
discussed it twice.
We're seeing it for the first time right now in our packet. It wasn't in our packet from the other day, so
Maybe then we should
chance
just...
to read it more
Yeah,
carefully.
I think we should just
think
defer
about
that to the next meeting. So we should review this, and maybe we'll have more comments. Okay. Compromise? Everybody? Okay. Consensus? We're deferring to the next meeting. So next item is colony pool fees. And who has some feedback on this, some background? So I know we discussed it already, we already passed it, so we're already doing the colony pool. This is regarding whether or not colony pools would be for disabled persons, I think that's what
Correct,
it
yeah,
was for.
this was brought up by Committee
Yes.
Member Ritter, and just asked if we could look at a way to offer a discount for anybody that's disabled. So that's what we were looking at. It's a question I will defer to the township attorney, but we were looking for a definition of what's disabled. So that's, we figured we'd have a discussion about that. If it met the committee's
Sure.
approval, we would bring them forward for an ordinance introduction at the next meeting, and then it
Sure.
would be adopted at the following meeting.
So Albert, you want to give some
Well,
thought?
the administrator is correct. When I started to look at this and try to determine what a definition of disabled is, there are many definitions of disabled. There are definitions under federal law, there are definitions under state law. Under state law, you have, for example, veterans benefits, workers' compensation. There's a whole series of definitions of what disabled is depending upon what is being addressed or what type of law it is. So what I did is I opted to get a second opinion, and I suggested to the administrator to speak with Labor Council because Labor Council would have more familiarity with things that could be considered discriminatory in terms of not applying the law uniformly. And the Labor Council came up with a very creative solution, which is let's look to what the state does in terms of waiving fees to state parks. So the recommendation was use the state park definition of when they will waive a fee to one of the state parks. And the issue here is one of, it's not as simply as saying, I'm disabled and going to the gate and being allowed in. You have to present proofs that you are disabled. And so some of the proofs that the state require are a Social Security certificate of disability, okay? A certificate, which is a certificate of disability determination, supplemental security income, notice of decision, certificate of total disability, certificate by the New Jersey Commission of Blind verifying the individual is blind, medical certification by a licensed practicing physician. So there would have to be a mechanism put in place where a person could apply prior to going to the gate. Probably the administrator would make a determination on that application and grant or deny the exception or waiver with respect to the fee for that person. I know that you've already implemented the ordinance or started to collect fees under the ordinance. If you decided to go forward with an exemption for the disabled under this definition from the state and how the state operates for state parks, you can make that retroactive to the beginning of the season. And so if someone did pay that was disabled and could present the proofs, could present those proofs, you could return or refund that money. And that's not unusual. You'll very often see in your agenda package resolutions making some sort of refund for something or other to a resident. And you would authorize that in the ordinance only for this year. Going forward, that application would have to be made prior to the fees being made. But here, because if you decide to follow this course, the collecting of the fees would have already started, so you want to make it effective at the beginning of the season. So it's really crafting an ordinance or an exception to your existing ordinance using the state definition for disability and the proofs required by the state. And you're really not inventing anything new. When I was doing the research, I was trying to invent something new, and that really was not necessary. Labor Council was very good to look at the obvious and look to another model, and that was very good.
Okay, thank you for a great explanation.
And would this be for a yearly membership, or how would we deal
It would-
with individual guests if someone were to bring a guest?
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. I don't think that you could parse a person out for a one-day attendance and say, make sure you bring your qualifications. If you're bringing
Yeah.
somebody as a guest,
That's exactly my point.
I don't, yeah,
But
I
does
think
that
that would be
then
very
put us
cumbersome.
on the wrong side? So
Well,
we-
you're also
have to ask
putting the
Labor
onus,
Council.
So you have to ask Labor Council what that,
you could be putting the
means.
onus on a person who's not really equipped to look at this, some kid at the gate.
Well, that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
So we have to be very clear that this
It's
will
for a
only
yearly
be
membership.
for a yearly membership, but then does that put us at odds with not following our own policy of saying that we're friendly to the disabled categories as defined by the state? I just don't want to get us in trouble or disappoint someone.
I'll see what the state does. No,
Back to the Labor
it's
Council.
No, I'll see
Is
what
there
the
an
state,
issue
what the
of,
state does.
is there an issue of discrimination if you leave it to township residents only, since obviously we have resident and non-resident?
I think you have to be careful about that because
Right.
you have Green Acres funding that is applicable to Colony Pool, and generally,
If you're extending this, you'd have to extend it beyond township
you'd
residents?
have to be, again, all this is really an exception to your existing ordinance. So
Right.
if you have a township rate, this would apply as an exemption or waiver. If you have a non-resident rate, it would apply then. So it would apply to both categories. Again, because you want to be fair to everyone. I mean, the pool is not just for Chatham residents.
So you will research and come back to us, or
Well,
should
I'll-
we just act on it, or?
Ms. Ness made or
Great point.
one of the two of you made a good
Both.
point, which is what happens on a one-day pass, how do you treat that? And I'll come back, but
You'll find out.
what I'd like to do is, with your permission, is not just come back with an answer, but come back with an actual proposed ordinance. And then you can,
We don't delay that any
pick it.
I would also like, Albert, if you will address the necessity of accompaniment, because if you're talking about disabilities in terms of developmental disabilities, it's hard to, you could drop a 10-year-old kid off at the pool under regular circumstances if they pass their deep water test, or maybe it's 13 years old or whatever. But there's a separate set of protocols, I would think, for having somebody there with certain disabilities. Can't just drop them off there.
I don't think that was on the list.
I'm sorry.
Was that on your list, the who gets into state parks list?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's a very slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, but there are safety matters when it comes to running a pool. I think the idea of having somebody in a swimming situation is opening up a can of worms, because you're now, once again, you're asking a lifeguard to potentially save a life of a situation.
Well, again, I don't think you need to go there right now. Let me
Right.
find out
Yep.
what
But I just
what is
need
there.
that to be part of the
Right.
consideration.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, and now the time for hearing of citizens again. So everyone has 3 minutes until we approve that part.
So get it while it's
All
hot.
right, so keep it quick.
Hi, Stacy Ewald, 54 Nicholson. Just a quick comment on the last topic. It sounds like for somebody who's disabled that you're looking for paperwork before they can be admitted or before they can have their membership for Colony Pool. And I might suggest, similar to what we do with senior citizens, that they're allowed to join Colony Pool and to check off the disabled rate, but then they can be asked for their paperwork. I don't think we ask senior citizens to prove that they're 65, so I would say that the disabled citizens, because people aren't going to come to Colony and check off for a discount that they're disabled so that they can enter at a cheaper rate. So I would suggest that, we just say that we can request their documentation as opposed to requesting the documentation in order for them to have membership. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward? All right, so the hearing of citizens completed. Now we have a resolution to approve to go into executive session. Resolution number 2019 P-06. Greg, will you read that?
Resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, authorizing conference of the Township Committee with the public excluded, whereas NJSA 10:4-12 of the Open Public Meetings Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of the specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Potential litigation, Aptive Environmental LLC versus Township of Chatham. It is anticipated that the minutes on the subject matter of the executive session will be made public upon conclusion of the matter under discussion, and in any event when appropriate pursuant to NJSA 10:4-7 and 4-13. The committee will come back into regular session and may take further action. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Great, thank you, Greg. Do I have a motion to approve?
So approved. So moved.
Seconded?
I
Okay.
approve.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz? Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Selin?
Yes.
I know.